you know, you mentioned you don't really like to wear leather, but we'll think of something else. Um,
Depends on the contract. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Dinnell with Remax West Coast and the Dinnell Real Estate Group, Richmond's Community Realtors. And here we are on episode 9 of Amazing Richmondites. And I'm really excited today because we have an amazing Richmondite. She's from Richmond. Well, not originally, but she's been here for over 50 years. So she is a true Richmondite. Clare Scott today, born in England, immigrated to Richmond over 50 years ago, grew up in East Richmond in the blueberry bushes. Her dad would take her fishing at Scotch Pond and play in the sand dunes at Gary Point, attended Sidaway, Cook, Palmer, McNair, ran track with the K-Jacks and coached Special Olympics track. She grew up with a brother who has autism. She's worked in local community centers for over 10 years, summer camps, various classes, attended art school in LA, California, and finished her teaching degree at UBC. Now she's been teaching now at Hugh Boyd in the special ed program for over 28 years. Did you start when you were 2 years old or what? This is crazy.
That's about it, yeah.
And she's been a member of the Steveston Historical Society and Steveston Community Society. She's got 2 great adult kids and recently moved back home to Steveston after trying life in Yaletown for a few years. So welcome back, Claire, and nice to have you back. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm on spring break now, so I'm relaxed and the weather's good. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And I've been following you for a few years on your Instagram and Facebook. And I had no idea that you were a teacher until I reached out to you. I thought you were just this famous photographer doing all this and taking these amazing shots.
Thank you.
Now, tell us something interesting about yourself before we get started.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, growing up in Richmond, back in the day, you mentioned twice that I've been here over 50 years, so you've really aged me here. But
that's what you wrote in your biography. Come on.
Back in the day when we were about 12 years old, we were riding our bikes all over Richmond, and you know, it was time to come home when the street lights came off. You know, it was just a great and safe place to live. And a bunch of us were riding our bikes over by Shady Island and said, hey, the tide's out, let's go across. So we walked across on the rocks and played around, explored. There's all kinds of treasures over there. And it started to get a little dark out. We said, oh, we should probably go back. Well, the tide had come in.
Oh, no.
And yeah, if you've ever been over there, we now take the kayaks over there. But so we stayed the night over on Shady Island. There weren't those beautiful row houses down there. And no one lived around there. Even back then, London Farm was just like an old haunted house. And we didn't even have flashlights with us. Someone had a lighter, so we had a little fire and just sat around telling ghost stories. And the sun came up in the morning and the tide went out again and we were able to come back over the rocks. But it's interesting now to this day because we take the kayaks out and around there and you see people going across the rocks, and I want to go tell them, have you watched the tides? And make sure you're not out there too long. And where I live right now, it's kind of neat because at nighttime you can hear the coyotes howling over there. It's kind of neat.
So you stayed overnight, which you had to. You didn't get eaten by coyotes.
Right.
And you made it back safe.
Yeah, and we didn't have cell phones back then either. And there was no one living in the neighborhood, so we couldn't yell for help. But, you know, next day, made it home. No questions asked, really. I stayed at a friend's house.
That's a great story. You know, have never gone across there myself. I've lived in Richmond my whole life, 41 years. I've never crossed because I'm petrified of your exact story.
Right. Yeah, that's, I think, one of the main reasons we got the kayaks. There's a little dock across there. And actually, people were camping over there in the summer, and they had these little Chihuahua dogs, and I said, "Oh, I see you brought your coyote food with you." And they kind of looked at me. I said, "You're not from around here," and they said, "No." I said, "Yeah, there's coyotes over here."
Yeah, they're even around Steveston, Gary Point, all throughout Richmond. Actually, there's been a lot of sightings I've seen on Facebook recently that people are posting
Yeah,
photos of the coyotes. But as long as you don't bug them, they'll usually leave you alone, right?
that's right. That's right.
So you are a local photographer here in Steveston. How did you get started in the industry? Does it have to do something about California?
Well, yes, I did my first year at art school in Los Angeles and fell in love with the dark room there. And again, I'm aging myself. My camera, after I had my children, I loved taking pictures of my kids. And so it was film back then. And I used to do black and white, and then I would hand paint the portraits. And I belonged to a postnatal group, and I did all the moms' babies, and we did groups. And then I started doing maternity shoots and weddings and family portraits and that kind of thing. So, it's just a passion of mine. It's something I always enjoyed doing. And I inherited a digital camera, and it scared me to death. And I learned how to use it, and just became my thing. I just loved it so much. But it's funny because my second book, most of my pictures were taken with my iPhone. So, it just shows.
With your iPhone. The iPhone is just amazing, isn't it? For a camera and a video camera.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Well, that leads into my next question. You said something about your books. Now, you've published 2 books
there it
now.
is. Yeah.
I've got your one here. You recently just created a book of Steveston Faces. So please let us know how this came to be and where can people find this book? I know I just recently purchased it for $20 at Purpose Smoothie. So
right.
shout out to Braden over there. Yeah, he's amazing. He was actually our first episode of this series to help kick us off. So Braden, thank you for this. But yeah, tell us all about it. It's really cool to see a lot of familiar faces in this book.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like, again, it's my passion. And one of the things where I teach, when back in the day, we used to be able to sit down and have lunch together. I would sit with a group of my colleagues, women around my age, and we'd sort of talk about our lives. And at that time, about 4 years ago, my children were moving out of the home. Their children were moving out of the home, and they were, well, what am I going to do now with my life? And I said, well, what's your passion? And, it was just heartbreaking to hear that not many people have passion. And photography has always been a passion of mine. And at that time, I was also thinking of moving back to Steveston. And I thought, why not combine my passion of living in the village with my photography? I wanted to kind of get my foot back in there as well. And as I walked around and reacquainting myself with the village, I would see people who were familiar to me, but I didn't know who they were, and I didn't know their stories. And, as you know, especially doing this series, everybody has a story. And so I thought, I was actually getting my nails done in Steveston, and I thought, what am I going to do with my photography? And I do take a lot of pictures. It's just what I love to do. And I thought, why don't I do a book and get to know some of these people? And it's just been an amazing experience. I went on social media on the Richmond site and said, hey, who do you think of when you think of Steveston? And the next day I woke up to over 300 entries and suggestions. And wow, it was just amazing. And then I started doing some networking, like you said, great thing to do. Connected with Gabrielle Sharp at the Steveston Museum, who said, yeah, we have some great, history books on Steveston. And I said, well, this isn't going to be a history book. This is a current book, people who you see walking down the street today. And so we started from there. The youngest of my book is 14 years old, Japanese dancer, who is also the daughter of one of my best friends from grade 2, and all the way up to the oldest, who was 87 years old. And wow. It was interesting, the stories when I got to sit down and meet with these people, like Harold Steves, who invited me into his home. And I could feel the ghosts in there. It was just an amazing experience. And, just hearing all these really neat stories, I met some great people, and I've started book number 3. I've got a shoot this afternoon, actually, at Gary Point. And, this is going to be another exciting book that will come out probably in a year or so. I'm not going to rush this one.
So can you give us a hint on what you're doing the book on?
Well, it's called Portraits in the Village. And these are willing models. And I think you and your wife are going to be in this book.
Well, yeah, I think we've agreed to, I don't think our lawyers have actually, signed off on the contract yet, but, we're honored to be a part of it, and we can't wait. And
that would be wonderful. So this is going to be a little bit outside the box. So, you mentioned you don't really like to wear leather, but we'll think of something else.
Depends on the contract.
Right. So I'm going to be using all historic places, important places in Steveston. I did a shoot at the Britannia shipyards in one of the old net sheds, and they're haunted. And
are they really?
Oh yeah. And my model is a local gal, and she does makeup artistry, and she's a ghost in my book. And I've got a mermaid on the rocks at Gary Point. And there's an old story about the Hells Angels who used to ride their bikes through the Buck.
I've heard the story, yes. Yeah. On Canada Day, every Canada Day they did that.
That's right. That's right. And so I've got a guy coming out the front door on his motorcycle, and, little things like that. And so there's going to be little stories, a little history about the locations and situations, with very creative, sort of outside of the box portraiture. And somebody said, I was doing a picture of someone in a unique situation, and she said, wow, this book's going to knock the socks off this sleepy little town. And well, it's going to be very tastefully, but creative and artistically done.
Well, if it's as good as your other two, I'm sure it's going to be a hit. Now, where can people find your first 2 books, and how can people order them or purchase them?
Okay. Yeah. And there's my second book right there. So this is the Faces of Steveston, and the other one is just there it is. They're just pictures around the village that aren't your real touristy shots. And I've been out in my kayak, and you get to see Steveston from a different perspective. So at Purpose Smoothie, like you mentioned, Monkey Tree, Prickly Pear, the Best of British Store, the Steveston Hub, Village Books. I think that's it. All of them. Yeah. And so, they can all be found there. And, of course, supporting local businesses, and part of the proceeds will be going to the Steveston Historical Society as well.
That is amazing. And, this is why I just love Steveston and Richmond as a whole, because we do have so much community, and you're helping out our local business, which we here at the Dinnell Real Estate Group just love to do, because we're not a community without our local shops and our local faces of Richmond and Steveston. So my next question to you is, how has, I guess, your business been affected by COVID, or how have you had to innovate your whole photography game during these times?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because that's when the peak of putting these books together was a year ago right now during my spring break. And if you take a look through my books, most of my pictures are done outdoors. And so when you're outdoors, I feel you're a little bit safer. And when I did a picture, for example, of Nick at the bakery, the bread guy, he said, yeah, we can do a couple pictures, but 6 feet apart and outside. And I said, absolutely. And I've got a telephoto lens, so I was able to go further than 6 feet apart. And, it was fine. And in fact, it gave me more time to be able to get out there and connect with people, a lot of people who weren't at work, having the conversations, reaching out, chatting on the phone. meeting in parks and things like that. So it actually was a bit of a positive for me, to be able to have more time to pursue my passion of getting these books done.
And how long does it usually take for you to get a book done? Is it, it's something that you just don't do over a weekend? Like, is this years, months? How long does it take you to put something
Well,
together?
for me, my goal was a year for Faces of Steveston. I wanted to have it done for July 1st for Canada Day and set up a little booth and that kind of thing. But it didn't come out till August. After the Steveston Salmon Festival was canceled, I was able to prolong my release. And it actually came out just as Steveston was deemed one of the best neighborhoods in the Lower Mainland.
Perfect timing.
Nice timing, yeah.
And that was done by CBC. Am I right with that?
Yeah.
Voted number 1, and that's a big feat, just considering that in all of BC it was all of BC, was it not?
Greater Vancouver, I think.
Greater Vancouver. Okay, well, it is like Steveston is the best little city around, right? It's just unbelievable. So, now, in your own words, my last question, I always finish it off with this, Claire. What does it mean to you to be a Richmondite?
Oh boy. Well, I think being proud of our community, and, I'm very lucky to have grown up here and still residing here. In fact, it's kind of funny, teaching in a local high school. I'm actually teaching kids of people I went to high school with. So, like we mentioned earlier, the connections that people have with one another, growing up in a small town that Richmond used to be, it's becoming a much bigger city now, but it's just the pride, I've had people say to me who don't live in Richmond and are not from Richmond, "Oh, Ditchmond, you're from Ditchmond." And I say, yes, I'm from Richmond that has ditches. I used to ice skate and catch frogs in those ditches. Great place to grow up.
Well, we haven't been called Ditchmond for years, right? We got rid of all the ditches, but I do remember that as a kid, we used to jump ditches all the time, tried to do it with our bicycles, rollerblades back in the days, and catching frogs was definitely something that we did as young kids. And falling in I don't know how many times we fell in the ditch and had to go in, and my mom yelling at me, "Get in the shower," right? So
and then the whole neighborhood heard about it. But definitely, what a great place to grow up. And I was so happy to bring my own children up here as well. It's just created great memories.
It definitely has. And thank you, Claire, so much for participating with us on episode 9 here of Amazing Richmondites. You're definitely amazing. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you, maybe they would like to hire you for a shoot or maybe purchase some books, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on Facebook under Clare Scott, and I'm on Instagram at Claire_Scott67. That's probably the best way to reach me.
Perfect. Well, I suggest everybody give Claire a follow. Her work is amazing. You'll absolutely love it. And make sure you pick up Steveston Faces right now. I guarantee if somebody who lives in Steveston, you will know at least 5 people in this book, guaranteed. It's funny that you said the guy that owns the bread shop. I've never met him, but every time you walk by Steveston, you walk out Moncton, he's outside talking to somebody, right?
Yeah.
But I never knew who he was. Now I do. So thank you for this.
There you go. Exactly.
So have a great afternoon. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.